Good morning, friends. My name is Bernard. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing two techniques which I forgot to discuss on my beginner violin lesson series. The two are pizzicato and tuning. Let's start with pizzicato. Pizzicato happens when you, instead of using the bow on the strings, you pluck the strings, just like a guitar. Now, the way it's usually done, and it's very effective, is you hook your thumb right here on the corner, not very hard, but hook it on the corner of the fingerboard, and then reach down a little ways so you don't get rosin from the bow on your fingers. And if you practice a little, you'll find that when you use the fleshy part of your finger, it makes a nice sound. Now, there's different ways of doing this. This is a case where I've got a fist at the bow, and I'm like this. But I can also keep a regular bow grip, and if it was just a couple of notes, I could do that like that. Have to be very careful with the bow. I notice the frog of the bow is very close to the violin. So I have to be very careful not to hit the violin while you're doing it. Sometimes, I was just thinking about it, sometimes, not very often, but there are times where maybe put the bow down and play like this, especially in an orchestra. I can think of, there's this one passage at the end of the first movement of the Pathétique Symphony, and all the strings are playing a simple and for the effect, because there's a melody at the very end of the movement going on in the wind section, with the bows down, it's a beautiful, beautiful effect because you're not seeing the bows waving. Because if we're pitching like this, you can imagine a whole section, the bows are going to be waving around. And this is a very, very peaceful end of the movement. It's so beautiful. I haven't, sometimes conductors like to have the bows up, but sometimes the bows down. When the bows are down, it's special. There's also some quartet literature. I think the Ravel quartet, that we would often in the pizzicato movement leave the bow down. So there are various pieces. We don't use it too much in solo playing. There is in the Strictly Strings book on page 23 a discussion of left-hand pizzicato. And left-hand pizzicato is when you actually are just using the fingers of the left hand and plucking the string. You can use any finger you want. The example in the Strictly Strings on number 1 on page 23 is they play, and you notice I'm comfortable with third finger, but it could be the fourth. My fourth finger isn't as consistent as the third finger. And then there's a little piece here where it plays. Little elbow action, and then finish it with left-hand pizzicato. You notice in this situation, I actually move my hand up against the rib just for more stability. You don't have to, though. Okay, they only have two passages there. Now, we rarely play left-hand pizzicato. However, except if you're playing virtuoso music like Paganini and Sarasate, that you actually will be plucking not just open strings, but actually fingered notes. And give you a couple of examples in Paganini. Nel cor più non mi sento is a virtuoso unaccompanied work that has quite a bit of this pizzicato in left hand. And also the God Save the King by Paganini. And I definitely recommend if you want to watch Roman Kim play that. He does a fantastic job. I've actually played that piece years ago, but it's definitely music for young hands. And Roman Kim is an unbelievable player. So he's on YouTube. I highly recommend that you take a listen to what he can do with a left-hand pizzicato. Now, the other aspect that I forgot when I was doing beginner lessons was tuning. Now, normally, when we tune the violin, we tune the A string first, and we start usually from a machine that will have 440A, and we just make sure our A is in tune with the machine. And then we might, if we want to do it by ear, we then take A to D, perfect fifth, and you can see how nice that sounds. Many of my students like, at least in the early stages, to just play each note with the machine, and the machine will tell you if it's in tune. And then you have the D and G, and then finally the A and E. Now you'll notice I have pegs, and on my violin I only have one tuner. Many student instruments have 4 tuners, so meaning it's not designed to be tuned from the pegs. My violin is designed, the strings help make it possible for me to tune from the pegs, and it works quite easily. But what about the E string? You notice I have a tuner here. Well, and this goes for even if you have all 4 tuners. I'll put my E string out of tune. Listen. See, it's in tune. All right, I'm going to make it out of tune. So you hear it's flat. So now how do I get that in tune? What I do is I've ascertained, okay, it's out of tune. Now I have my hand here. I'm just plucking, brushing the strings very gently. Not this. See, I don't want that. I want to hear them together. I already know it's flat, so that I can hear that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck it as I turn, and of course to make it sharper, I screw the tuner in clockwise, and you can listen. Hear it going up? Sounds pretty close. You see when I go across like that, it makes a really nice even sound. Let's see. Sounds pretty close. I think I'll try to make it just a little sharper. Sounds pretty good. I could test it by playing a harmonic. You notice when you do this, you have to have a pretty even touch. Okay, so that, and you would do the same. If you had 4 tuners, you would like take an A and D. If it's out of tune, brush your fingers across, and you hear it's quite easy on the D and the A, and the same thing on the G. And figure out which finger. For me, the 4th finger, it's still too much that, where the 3rd finger I think is perfect. Have my hand against the rib. 2nd finger is okay, but I don't have quite the same control. So for me, the 3rd finger is the best. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something on this video and enjoyed it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care.